another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. I'm your host, Kif VH, and this episode is one we recorded live at the LA Comic-Con over Halloween weekend, and I've been doing this the past couple years, 3 years now, that we've done the live panel, and this one is really fantastic. It's about motion capture, and it focuses. Well, my guests are Richard Dorton, who is a mocap veteran who started a school called the Mocap Vaults, and Sherry and I, my wife Sherry and I, took a bunch of classes this summer at the Mocap Vaults, and it completely just set my mind on fire. It's a blast. So you'll hear from Richard. Also from Kristina Adelmeyer. She is an animator and a game developer, and she works at Infinity Ward, who's famous, of course, for the Call of Duty games. And finally, rounding out our panel is Michelle Lee, who is a stunt actor and has done tons of video games and stunt work. And they all share their insights in this exciting, rapidly changing, and vital world of motion capture. So if you're curious about it, this is a great place to start. Enjoy.
Welcome, everybody, thank you. Yes. Welcome to...
Hey, one quick note, just because it's live and done at the panel using the mics, we went out in the house, we did group exercises, and that stuff wasn't mic'd. So I've done my best to increase the volume of the Q&A and that kind of stuff. So it's a little dodgy, but the subject matter is compelling enough to keep you tuned in. So there you go.
All Over Voiceover Live, but we're here to discuss motion capture. My name is Kif Vandenheuvel. I'm an actor, voice actor, a teacher, and do a variety of stuff. And from Richie Rich on Netflix to recently played Han Solo in Star Wars Forces of Destiny, played Comstock in BioShock Infinite, and I got to be a pirate on Pirates of the Caribbean at the ride, which is I'm still in disbelief over. Anyway, but today I'm very excited to introduce a spectacular group of people to discuss, in particular, motion capture and what it's all about. So let me begin by introducing on my far left, Kristina Adelmeyer. Kristina, put your hands together. Kristina, you work at Infinity Ward, right?
Correct. Yes.
Can you tell like what's your official title and what are just from a credentials standpoint, what's your story?
Yes, so I'm the motion capture lead at Infinity Ward, where we work on Call of Duty. And previous to that, I was the motion capture lead at Neversoft, where I was in charge of basically all, and I currently am in charge of all technical work involving motion capture, from pre-production, shooting, and all the post-processing. And sometimes that includes casting and other things like that. And so, yes, at Infinity Ward, I've been working on the Call of Duty franchise. At Neversoft, I worked on Call of Duty and Guitar Hero and Gun and the Tony Hawk games.
Awesome. Yay, Kristina, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Next to Kristina, please welcome my dear new friend, Richard. My dear new friend. That's the weirdest comment, but it's kind of true. Richard Dorton, ladies and gentlemen. Richard.
Thank you.
I could butcher your credits, or you could tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your what do you do?
I'm known as the mocap man. I've been doing motion capture for the last 18 years. I've been in 100 video games, so I tell people, if you've played a video game, you've probably killed me. That's how I like to introduce myself. I've done 4 Star Wars games. I've played Master Chief. I am Left 4 Dead when you play the heroes and the zombies. I recently am the left head of King Ghidorah in the new Godzilla movie coming out, which we motion captured. So that's like my latest and greatest. But Ghostbusters, I did Call of Duty 2 and 3. Oh my God! I mean, there's just so many. I think it's an honor just to be able to bring some of these characters to life, and it's a lot of responsibility. I was the first person to play Darth Vader in a video game, so I've been doing this for a while, and I actually have a school now where I teach motion capture acting and prepping for shoots so that actors can go out and audition and know what they're getting into when they go to a mocap studio. So
Awesome.
That's why I
Richard
am.
Dorton, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least, Michelle Lee. Michelle, I've been applauding both the top and bottom of the introductions. We'll sustain that pattern. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I do all kinds of things, but I've been doing motion capture for about probably 12, 13 years, I'd say. And I'm an actress, and I'm a stunt woman also. I'm a martial artist. I'm a black belt. So all of these things kind of play into me being in motion capture. I was Ada Wong in Resident Evil 4, and I've done a bunch of...
the Empire.
The Empire was calling him. Yeah, I've done a variety of video games. I can't even start to list all of them. But I just recently did an acting role in a small acting role in Venom, and so it's just like a
awesome.
Variety of things.
That's so great.
And that incredible fight scene in Altered Carbon.
And Altered Carbon, yeah. Zero gravity fight in Altered Carbon. Whatever. It's just whatever.
Whatever, no big deal.
Whatever.
Zero gravity fights are just
Awesome.
something I have
Yeah.
full time. Awesome. Michelle Lee, ladies and gentlemen. So, I guess my initial question for each of you is, how did you find yourself from being someone who was interested in either this work or some participation in it and getting started in doing this work? How'd you guys get started? Why don't we start? Well, I'll start over here, Kristina, because I haven't heard you talk recently. So let's start with you.
Okay, so I went to school for film, and I always wanted to be in writing and directing for film. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, a friend of mine was doing motion capture, who went to film school with me as well.
Where did you go?
University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh.
Okay, awesome. Are you from Wisconsin originally?
Yes, I'm from Wisconsin.
There's Wisconsin.
Go
So
Packers.
someone, I thought I heard.
Anybody tomorrow, they're going to lose, but
Yes, they are.
but they're going to try. And that's what we do in Wisconsin. We try. Yeah, so I went to school for film back there, and one of my other film student that I went with, he was already here doing motion capture, and he knew that I was going to really like it, and we both really like doing it because it's so similar to filming, but a lot of times I think of it kind of like being on the second unit of a movie or of a TV show, because you just get to make stuff. Like, there isn't a lot of like, let's rehearse for 2 months, let's get all the lines right, let's do all this, let's do all that. It's just like, let's just go in here and do a couple different ways of fighting somebody, Let's just go in here and do a couple of ways. Like, if you got shot, let's play around and do some different deaths today. So it's a lot of fun because you get to work with actors and you get to create massive amounts of stuff, especially for video games. You get to make so many things because you have to populate a whole world. Sometimes you have to populate like a giant fight scene with lots of different people. And so for us, it's basically taking that film background, then being able to do all of the fun film stuff, and then we had some technical learning, but it was all on the job learning, and we both just took to it, and we just love it from the beginning.
That's so great. That's so great. And awesome. I have 50,000 questions. We'll continue on with it. But Richard, how did you get started in it?
I came out to LA to be a stuntman.
Where are you from originally?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, no kidding.
So I did a lot of theater. I'm Oxford trained, a lot of Shakespeare, and then I started stunt coordinating for America's Most Wanted, all those reenactments. So that's based in D.C.
How'd you transition? How'd you get into stunt coordination? Were you with your theater background and stage combat and stuff like that?
Theater background, stage combat, and then I worked on everything that I possibly could that came through D.C. I was an extra. I started car coordinating for movies. Like, I worked on Enemy of the State. I was a stunt double in Major League 2, the baseball movie,
Yeah.
the Japanese guy. So if anything came through DC, I just wanted to work on it. And I ran a costume shop. I started out, I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist. So I tried to touch everything I possibly could. And then I started stunt coordinating, and then it kind of kept growing, and so I said, I have to go to LA. That's where the business is. I came out here. My first audition was a video game. I auditioned for Scooby-Doo and Night of 100 Frights. So I played Shaggy and 80 villains in the video game.
80 villains in the game.
So Hanna-Barbera opened the books, so I got to be the Alligator Man, the Witch, Frankenstein, all of the characters from Scooby-Doo, and I got to be Shaggy. And they keyframed Scooby, so I had to do for my audition, I had to do the Shaggy walk, had to act like a gorilla, had to act like Frankenstein, had to run into a wall and fall down. I had to dance, and I had a dance background as well. I was a competitive ballroom dancer. I did hip hop, jazz.
How many lives are you drawing on?
This guy,
Everything.
yeah.
I mean, I was just sort of a jack of all trades. So getting motion capture, I came in to do this first game, and from that variety of characters, the next game that I worked on was Rogue Squadron 2. And it's mostly a flying game, but when you get to the top level, you get to be Darth Vader. And they said, if this guy can do all these characters, he can be Darth Vader. So that's how I got Darth Vader as my first big character. I mean, Shaggy's no slouch either.
Shaggy's no slouch.
But then it just kind of ballooned from there. Motion capture was being used on Titanic for stunts, and Michael Jackson had just done Blood on the Dance Floor, where a bunch of skeletons were dancing. So it was still in its sort of infancy stage. Then the video game world kind of jumped in, and I was just at the right place at the right time. And I had a motion capture studio that believed in me and just said, this is our guy. So they just kept bringing me back. I didn't really have to audition so much that they just said, this guy can do swords, this guy can do guns, this guy can dance, this guy can do this. So they just kept bringing me in, and they helped build my career. This motion capture studio called House of Moves, which is still around.
House of Moves, yeah.
I give them 80% of my career, work that they used me all the time, and so it just kind of exploded from that. And I was at the right place at the right time, and I had the skills, so it just kind of it was amazing, to be able to. I came to be a stuntman. I ended up a motion capture performer, and I worked more in video games than I have on any movie. So it's been great.
Oh, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. Michelle, how'd you come into this?
It sounds very similar. I was at the right place at the right time, and I went to college for programming, coding, because I loved coding, and then I started working for a video game company, EA Games.
Where are you from originally, or where did you get?
I grew up in LA.
You grew up here, okay.
I had headshots when I was 6. It's just what we do. Yeah, every kid is an actor here in LA. But so I had the background. I had the acting background. I was a martial artist already, a black belt, and I was interested in coding and had worked for EA Games as an intern, kind of just coding with them because I loved video games. I was such a gamer back in the day, and then I think all of those things just make it come together as a person that kind of understands like what the game company needs, the motion, how many times they need it done, why they need your foot placed here versus here. And it's very specific, because it messes up their data if you don't do it right. And so just, I think, coming from that background and understanding it helped me be very useful to a game company, which for me it was Sony. Sony found me. They were like, oh, can you just wave this sword around and, we're testing our motion capture thing and our motion capture rig, and I did it, and they were like, great, can you act? It's like, yes, we're going to use you. And Sony has still to this day been like 80% of my career. I work on very, very many Sony games.
You just did Spider-Man, right? Did you work on
Spider-Man, yeah. I started with God of War, like 2, 3, I don't know how many God of Wars.
We've done 3 together.
Yeah, we did 3 together. That's another story. That's basically how I started.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. Well, let me, just out of curiosity, how would you say that motion capture, from your experience, is different from other styles of performance? What are some things and ways that it's different? And then also, I don't know, it feels to me like there's when you're actually doing the nuts and bolts of it, the similarities are very much present. Like you're just connected to your scene partner and you're telling the truth and relying on your acting skill.
But what are the differences that someone who might have theater background sort of need to mitigate to make their job easier for you, easier for your partner that you're working with, just make the day move better? What would you say some different things are?
Yeah, I would say if you have a theater background, like if you've done a lot of theater, then motion capture is very similar in many ways to doing theater, because a lot of times you don't have to worry about where your camera is. A lot of times it's more about like, how can I perform this entire scene as if I'm performing a play? Like, how can I just be this character and do the whole scene and not worry about one line at a time to reset lights and camera and all that stuff? So in a lot of ways it is like live theater, and it's almost like theater in the round, depending on what kind of game you're working on, because sometimes you don't know where the player's going to be. Like in Call of Duty, a lot of times the player could be anywhere in this room, so we try to set up the scene so that the player will come and watch it, but technically they could be anywhere. So you kind of have to think about that. Like from a directing standpoint, you have to think about like, how can I stage this? And then from an acting standpoint, you have to be thinking about it in a theater kind of way, like, we're going to get through this entire scene. My performance has to be genuine for the whole thing. There won't be a lot of starting and stopping and stuff like that. But then also, to go with Michelle's point, there are some things that are very special for video games in particular. That if you're trying to create animations for a certain character, every time you see that character, they're walking around, maybe they stop at that door over there, maybe they wave to somebody. You have to do it in a very specific way. Like sometimes you have to hit certain marks with your feet and certain poses and stuff like that, like repetitive. Basically, if you think about it from sort of an animation standpoint, a lot of times animators will say, I've created this character and these are 2 or 3 poses that I picture this character getting in. And then the actor will say, okay, I understand those poses. I will work with those poses. I will get into those poses physically for you to make it easier, so that my performance comes in and out of that pose, and then animation can always use that pose to blend into the next thing.
Like just to give myself an example, like you're in a cut scene in God of War, and Kratos is dealing with some guy who's trying to sell him a potion, and now he's got to go hit some runes with his axe. But that's the gameplay. So you need to land in where you're going to be in the gameplay, or that physical position, right?
Yes.
From the end of the cinematic into where the game engine takes over. Is that correct?
Yes. That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
All right, good.
So
good.
these two probably have a lot of experience with that stuff.
I mean, there's 2 types of acting that's going on in video games. You have your in-game moves. So all the climbing, jumping, running, punching, shooting, opening doors, kicking, all of that is your in-game motions. And then you have your cinematic motions, which are like your movies and your cut scenes. So they do blend together, but each one has its own, set of rules when it comes to motion capture, basically, because we want to hit final idle poses so that it can blend into the next thing. But I also tell people, it's not me turning the doorknob, it's my character turning the doorknob. So you can look at it as, I have a shot list for a video game has thousands of moves that you have to do, from running forward to backwards, left, right, 45, and then you have to do it with a knife, and then a gun, and then a rifle, and then a shotgun, and then a chainsaw. So we're building a whole list of moves, thousands of moves that are for gameplay. And then you get to cinematics, and then it's more like making a movie. So you have two different rules for 2 different things that are happening in the same environment, but the whole time we are acting in character. I mean, I think one of the best things that was ever coined out of what we do was from the movie Polar Express, when Tom Hanks decided, he was like, this is performance capture. They stopped calling it mocap. They started calling it performance, because we are performing. We are acting through everything that we do. And that really helped us as mocap actors kind of bring a little bit of legitimacy to what we do. We rely on our imagination more than anything, than any other kind of work, because we don't have costumes, we don't have props. We don't have set pieces. We work with apple boxes and pieces of tape on the floor.
That's true, yeah.
So we have to create this imaginary world and stay true to what the design is. I mean, for us, we've been doing it for so long. It used to be one person was captured at a time. I played 5 people in the same scene, fighting myself, watching myself, watching myself, watching myself as somebody else. Now we can capture 20, 30 people in a scene, on the stage where we finally get to work with actors, other people. That's where, the technology grew and we were able to benefit from that. But when you're in a room with nothing by yourself, you have only your imagination to help create this world. And if you're lucky, you get a great director who can guide you and say, no, this is what the scene looks like. This is what the building looks like. Remember this window. Remember, I mean, it's a lot of imagination work, and that's, I think, when you come from theater, that's that was a great root, grounding place for us.
Yeah.
Because now with virtual reality, motion capture and virtual reality have blended into a whole new world. But now where the same like the player, the people visualizing, you can look anywhere you want. So you are now a theater actor again. You're not breaking character. You're not waiting, cut, my scene,
Right.
your scene. Now it's people can look at you all the time, and that's where our performance really shows. So it's been incredible to see that growth in the technology.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's like precision driving, but precision acting. You can act however you want, but just make sure your hand never goes through the door, or make sure your weapon comes only from your back. So those are just things that you need to remember in your acting. But then also it's freeing because you don't have to play for this camera or that camera. The camera can go under you and above you and be aerial, and that alleviates so much of the time restriction. But I feel like he said, there's 2 types of acting. There's the in-game, which is all the motion, and then there's the just free acting performance. And as technology gets better, I think we can meld the 2 and just be like in a VR world, just watching someone open doors and go through things and have conversations, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
After doing like the classes this summer, I took Richard's class this summer with my
He did
wife.
so great, by the way.
Thank you.
He's
Thank you.
amazing performer.
Awesome.
Well, I mean,
So fun.
thank you. That's not why I brought it up, but
Right,
I'll
no.
take your
Yeah.
praise. Thank you. Thank you for the applause. But what was so satisfying about it, and what sort of set me on fire for performance capture, again, and I'd done it years ago at Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. I was the Detroit boss in 2003 for Rockstar Games, but it was it wasn't real time. There was no it was all this. But the imagination that you guys are describing is so I hadn't felt that in so long, and that surprised me as an improviser, playing on stage in front of an audience, but still feeling like there's there's no fourth wall, but you know what I mean? Like I really got that sense of seeing and feeling in a different way. And one of the things that you just mentioned that struck me too is there, in the context of being in the volume, someone who handles your continuity? Or is that on you to stay on top of that? Meaning, if you draw a sword from here, and then later on, 2 hours later, after you've had a sandwich, that you pull it from here, is your technical director, is there an animator who's going to notice that in the reference file? Is that something that's easy to fix in post? How can you be a better team member if you how much do you need to...
I would say it's a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative effort, but it is something that definitely, when you work with someone who does a lot of motion capture, they can anticipate your needs, and that's really helpful, from a technical standpoint, because a very good actor will ask, where does the sword need to come from? What exactly should I do every time I take it out or put it away? Or, just asking questions like, how long do I need to run away from this? And what pose do I need to end in? And do I need to be inside the volume doing a certain thing, or can I just run right out? And those are really good questions that experienced actors always ask us. And it's also something that obviously it's our job to make sure we're getting what we need, but a lot of times actors with experience are already like on the same page with us, or thinking ahead to those really precise things that we need to make it all work.
It's amazing, like how many weapons come from
Yes.
chainsaw.
So
It's all
many
back there.
weapons.
It's
Chainsaw.
all back there.
Wherever, so we start to we know where it needs to come from, so that just becomes mechanical for us.
Yeah.
And the best thing though that I love about this kind of work is our shot list may have pull gun, aim, fire, pull gun, aim, lower. So there will be five spaces, 2 of them will be filled and 3 will be blank. And they'll go, now what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, really? Now I get to choose? How about if I pull gun from side and blow somebody's head off or whatever? You become part of the creative process. And that's the beauty of it, because then all of a sudden we decide, oh, can I switch the sword to this hand now? And they go, yeah, I think so. So then we've now expanded the shot list for ourselves, but we're also creating new moves and new things. That's where the collaboration really comes in. That you're like, most video game characters are right-handed, right? You're always pulling from the right side. I did 50 games before I told anybody I was left-handed. I went home and I learned to do everything right-handed. I just practiced. Like, have you ever thrown the ball with the opposite hand? Like throwing grenades? You're like,
Awful.
now I know how to throw a grenade with my right hand. That was part of the deal, But now in video games, most of the game characters run around with their gun in their right hand, right? And they get to fight with their left hand. So now I'm like, now I can really beat you up, So it was watching the technology grow gave us that option, and to have those blank spaces to say, what do you want to do, really makes us part of the collaboration. And you can actually say, yeah, that's my move. I created that. That was something that I became part of. And that's the beauty of what we do. Like, I can't believe this is a job.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's really cool, because usually we'll come in with a shot list and we know we need to get like 5 different deaths, but like our animators might say, oh, we came up with like 2 or 3 ways of doing this, but we know that our stunt team will have like, oh, how about we try this or this or this or that, so then our ability to capture a lot of different things really depends on the actors and stunt people being able to do that imagination and improv, really use those improv skills to say like, yeah, I know what they expect, and I know the 2 or 3 things that they fed me as like a way of doing it. Now let me think about a cool way of doing it that comes like from my creativity and my experience.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think, especially as an improv teacher for so long and doing it for so long, the thought process behind, I need to take improv classes so I can learn how to be funny or write funny or come up with jokes because of improv comedy, because of Whose Line, that it's not about that at all. It is about living truthfully in a moment and being confident to make a strong, like, emotional or physical choice that feels that you haven't planned out before, and having that awareness and willingness to take that kind of a risk, and that's the real value to me of improv training for any of this stuff. It's not just unless you're a writer and you want to go write comedy, it's a great place to spend your time there.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, that was that. Awesome. Hey, thank you. So, what are some of the unique challenges that you've encountered over the course of your career that, we talk about the stuff that we love about what's been not necessarily the downers thing, but what things have you encountered through this work that you were able to mitigate or work around, or like a river and a stone move around? What are some of the challenges that you've faced?
Crouch runs.
Crouch runs?
Oh yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, there are many positions that the characters run in and walk in, and a good portion of them are crouched in a hidden posture and doing that all day really takes a toll on your body.
It burns your
Yes.
quads out. It's like being at the gym for 8 hours straight.
I'll volunteer and do one across here
Please
so people
do,
can.
please
Oh,
do. See
yes.
how hard it is.
Just
Yes.
one though, only one.
but
have to
that's
run. So
but
it's
it.
like-
But keep in mind, this is one.
So if I'm down with my gun like this, is this right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And I'm holding it, so it's
Okay, too fast.
too fast.
Yeah, now do it again. Just slow it.
Slow down.
Slow down, slow down.
Slow down. So
Yeah,
it's more.
you're creeping.
You're
You're
creeping.
creeping.
Yeah,
not
like
too
you're creeping
powerful.
like a stealthy.
Under-
like
Stealth, stealth.
Yeah.
There you go. Lower, 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 lower.
There you go.
There you
You're
go.
under the window.
You're under the cover.
Under the cover.
There
under
you
the
go.
Cover, yeah.
Oh, wait. Now do it backwards.
Yeah, because sometimes they retreat. There you go.
Stay low.
Stay low, low.
Stay
He's
low,
creeping
slow
up.
down.
Wait, you just completely
much fun.
broke the loop.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very good. Very good demonstration.
That was very nice.
Thank you.
But imagine having to do that, like from here to the middle of the aisle there, and then back, and then you have to do it
With a gun, with a rifle,
knife,
with
a
an
rifle,
empty hand.
I mean, and you're constantly, you're physically, you're going forward, backwards on the 45s and left and right, and then you do it with every weapon. So and because it's so hard, a lot of the people that direct us, and this is, we'll tie into that. Some of the people when we first started were animation directors who were directing us. So they knew what the moves they want, but they didn't know how to talk to actors. They're
It's tough.
They're animators, and they were used to working on animation and not having to deal with actors. And then to get them to talk to us, oh my God, we have to talk to somebody? Okay. But they would say, oh, we hear crouches are really hard, so let's get rid of them. Let's do them early in the shoot. And we would be like, you just blew my legs out for the. I had 8 more hours to go. I can't walk now. So we as performers had to teach them how to talk to us and how to,
Or
we
to
would
schedule
just schedule
things.
it.
Yes,
Like,
and
let's
how
do
to
one set of
schedule.
crouches and let's go do something else, and then we'll come back and do another set of crouches because we would have, our days are really, really long, and there's no going to your trailer and sitting and breaking. The minute we do something, they're like, okay, the next move. We're trying to knock out 200 to 300 moves a day when you're doing
That's
the in-game
often the
stuff,
case.
and it's brutal. I mean, it's really, really, really tough. Cinematics are different because you are treating you get to rehearse your scene before, but we tend to do 3 takes and move on. So your first take has to be really, really good, because then your second take we make little adjustments, and then the third take is like, what else do you want to try if we've got it? So it's not like we do 15 takes of something because our schedule is so tight, and that's where your improv comes in, and that's where being a really good actor and being really, really fast and understanding. I mean, it's really it's a challenge, and now that we're starting to get really good directors who come from film and TV world and game world directing us now. That's why the cinematics are so good. That's why The Last of Us is so good. That's why the Uncharted are, God of War. That we're getting people now who understand this world and has opened it up to us. It's incredible to be directed by somebody who was just an animator and see them now understand the process, and now they're a top game director. It's pretty incredible. So
Awesome. Kristina, what have been some of the challenges that you've faced?
I think the most fun. I really enjoy working with actors, but coming from a film and directing background, I never really found that aspect of it as challenging. Just really a lot of fun, and I always enjoy being in the scenario of, well, I know what this animator needs, and I know how to talk to this actor to get it. So I've always been able to bridge the gap and make it easier for both parties to communicate. But I think for me, the most sort of fun challenges that I've personally dealt with has been trying to capture things that a lot of times people are like, well, you won't be able to capture that. How can you get this many people in, or how can you capture this prop, or what if they're wearing, at my very first job, we worked with David Fincher on a commercial that was with, it was a football commercial. So he was like, well, I want to grab someone's jersey. Well, you can't actually wear a jersey, because when you're wearing the mocap suit, the reason why it's tight and has all those little balls on it is because that's going to drive the arm of the character and the back of the character. You can't have something loose. You can't pull on that because then the whole character will break.
It's their skin.
It's literally their skin and their bones, and like
Yeah.
everything will get like all messed up. So we enjoy coming up with ways. Well, how can we capture it so it looks like he's grabbing the jersey, and the person reacts in the way that his jersey's being grabbed, but not actually do anything to mess with the suit or the markers or anything like that.
Yeah.
So you know, in that case, we use like a stunt strap.
Yep.
You know, we actually use these a lot in motion capture. Like if you're doing a scene where you're on the battlefield and then your buddy gets shot.
Just changing gears here, what resources would you guys recommend for people who are interested in pursuing this work in terms of like how to get better at it, how to learn more about it, how to like what do you know of that you would recommend to send people to do? You know, like I mean, for me, one of them is lose weight. So like, and then not only from just doing that, it's physically taxing and exhausting. And like, I want to be able to be, you know, it's like for voiceover, you nurture and take care of your pipes. You make sure that you don't do karaoke anymore. There's just things that you do so that you provide that. I guess physically, that's something that you need to provide as well. What other resources would you guys recommend?
The misconception that mocap acting is different than regular acting is acting is acting, and that's the way we treat it. There is no such thing as mocap acting. But you do need certain skills. If you're a stunt person, or if you want to get into the in-game capture, that's one thing. A lot of skills. We use a lot of people who do parkour, you know, or the Call of Duty is using a lot of ex-military people who understand clearing a room. I mean, that's you're being true to the authentic move, which is great. So if you're an actor, I always tell people if you're a good actor, you'll probably end up in the suit someday because you're going to get an audition for a video game, and then that's your opportunity as a good actor. Skills, specific skills, being a martial artist, being somebody who knows how to do weapons, somebody who knows how to do swords, climbing, all of that kind of stuff is a special skill. But acting is acting, you know, and so it's where you train if you get good acting training, if you get good improv training, that's where it comes. I'll toot my own horn. My company, the Mocap Vaults, where we teach, we put you through, motion capture auditions and motion capture training, but my classes are core acting classes.
Yeah.
They're not, there's some technical things that you learn to do or not do. I mean, when I first started, you couldn't cross your arms in motion capture because you had these markers on and you were blocking the markers, and then your arms would disappear in the data, and then it would take a lot longer. So we learned how to make adjustments, get in there and get out of your crossed arms. But now you can't let the technology interfere with your performance, because it's the same thing. Figuring out how to grab somebody. There are a lot of actors who like to put their hands in their pockets, and mocap suits don't have pockets. So what they do is they take a little Velcro strap and they put it here so you can just put your hands in it, and then it looks like your hands are in your pockets. So we figure out those things that work for the actor without the technology getting in the way. We can't lean against the wall because we have back markers, so we build set pieces that are cut like pieces of wood that the markers will fit through so the cameras behind you can see. But we don't ever let the technology interfere with the acting. So it's sort of, if you want to get into it, having great skills is perfect, and specialized skills for in-game. Being a good actor, I think, will eventually get you in the suit at some point. Because, look, Avatar is shooting for the next 5 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Avatar 2 and 3 are being shot right now. There's a plan 4 and 5. There's some kind of motion capture going on in film and TV, and always, and VR. So there's so much out there. I just worked on the Void, where you can be the Star Wars character in VR at Glendale Galleria. I just did one where you get to be a colonial marine and shoot aliens, and that's down in OC. So that was motion capture for VR. So you're in this thing and you're chasing aliens. I mean, it's everywhere, and that's in VR.
Cool.
Dubai just opened a giant Warner Brothers VR park, and you get to play I mean, you get all these VR experiences, and it's all motion captured, the work that we've done. So it's kind of incredible. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But being a good actor, I think you will eventually get in the suit, because she's going to say, let's do a casting,
Yeah, I mean, you do casting just like you do for television and film. We have a casting director that works in television and film, and they just know that what parts we're interested in, what kind of characters we need people to play. And then, if somebody has some video game background or interest, the casting director will find that out, and usually those people get to the top of the list. But it is about being a good actor and or having special skills, just like with any other acting. Just to say that, if you wanted to do a lot of work as an extra, if you have extra skills, like if you're a really good dancer or a martial artist or stuff like that, it's basically like a specialty hire, and that's what motion capture is too. There are a lot of specialty things we might need for a dance game, or Tony Hawk, if we needed people that could skateboard, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you're an actor and you have some special skills, then that's when the casting directors can find you for us. But it's very similar process with auditions and all that. But as you guys know, it's we ask you to do some specific things at auditions to see how precise you can be with your motion, and if you can do things kind of like repetitive motions and stuff like that.
It's interesting how also with YouTube and with as performers yourself, how you create your own marketing material, or the guy who did the motion capture for the in-game stuff for God of War, the new God of War 4, Kratos. That guy, Eric Jacoby, he went into his garage and he filmed himself punching and slamming, and he created his own move set of Kratos moves, and then he sent it to Santa Monica Studios or something, and they found him on YouTube. He's like, this is how I think Kratos would fight, and that's how he got the job.
Are you serious?
To be Kratos. He did his own marketing, he's creating his own form of, because he's a gamer, he's a huge fan, and he's like, I think Kratos would fight like this, and he kind of did his own thing, and Sony got a hold of it because of YouTube, and they called him in, and he got the job. So
but I've also known Eric Jacobus for many years, and he is a talented martial artist.
But he was smart.
top level martial artist. An actor. He's been in the industry for years, and he knew what he was doing. He put it together knowing what he was doing.
But it's
It
how you
was pretty
create your own,
cool.
it's how
It was
you create
pretty
your
cool
own
though
stuff.
that he did that.
That's awesome.
Because we work on games that we can't talk about for 2 years.
Right.
We go in and we sign an NDA, and you have no idea what we've just shot, and we're sitting here going, "Oh my God, if I could just get the footage, if I could just tell anybody."
So cool.
And so we can't even promote ourselves. We can't say that I worked on Call of Duty '87, because we're held back from that, and so it's really. We have to wait for the game release or a trailer to drop where we can finally say, yes, that was me. I finally, and by that time, we're on to the next game. That's 2 years ahead. Right. So it's to be able to say, I played Master Chief. I sat on that for such a long time. You have no idea all the stuff I did on that. I just wanted to tell people, yes, I finally got to play Master Chief. 2 years later, good for you.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah.
Great. I'm only as good as my last game. So it's an interesting business. I mean, and from the voiceover world, you get scripts that you're doing lines that you have no idea that that's the next Halo you're working on, or because we're trying to save. It's special. It's a lot of money. Red Dead Redemption 2 just dropped, right? I like to call that my grandson, because I did Red Dead Revolver, the first one. So I'm glad to see the family is still moving along.
Yes, right.
But that was in development for 4 years, 5 years,
I think
for a
it
long.
was 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
And somebody who worked on the game put it on their resume, and their resume ended up online, and somebody found it before they announced the game was released, and that caused a huge problem for that poor actor.
Yeah.
Who, but he was so it was I think it was his first motion capture job, so he was so excited.
Yeah.
But we were like, you cannot
Yeah.
tell anybody what you're working on. You know, because
Yeah.
it caused a big problem.
It really helped me to reframe the thought process of like, it's not my story to tell. It was great that I got to be a small part of a thing, but I got paid for it. They gave me money for my time. That wasn't my story at all. It was like my experience, and I can live with that. But I stepped on that in that hole with Marvel Alliance 2. It was my very first video game job. I was crowd like additional voices, and I was just excited about IMDb, and I put that credit up, and I got annihilated. You know, you take that credit down. Like, oh yes, of course. And you call IMDb, and IMDb is like, good luck. No, never. We won't. And it's really challenging. So it's let them tell the story.
I mean,
it's so much better.
It happened with Ghidorah too, with
Really?
Godzilla, because we shot that back in February, you know, and we weren't able to talk about it. And then somebody, because Jason Lyles, who's the center head, was George the gorilla in Rampage. He's 6'9", so I mean, Rampage was just, there was so much press about it, and everybody, it was doing really well.
Yeah.
And I think his publicist said, you know, he can now announce that he's did another motion capture character, and somebody from Legendary didn't get the message that this article was going to drop, so they dropped the article, and then they were trying to retract it, and me and the right head, we were like, la, 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 we're not saying anything, because the article came out and our names were in the article, and we were like, on one hand, you're like, yes, they finally announced it. And then you're like, oh shit, everybody hates, nobody's supposed to be talking about this. Then our names were deleted. And then people were flooding me with comments, and I just didn't answer. I'm like, oh, please let it go away, please, you know. But it was already out there. And then I found there was an article in Italian already on the internet. And so they announced us. So then they came back and Legendary said, this exec was on the plane when we decided that this was going to happen, so he didn't know. And then he got off the plane and he sees all this stuff, and so it was eventually figured out. But I'm like, I am never telling anybody what I do. I won't be the first one to tell you. But did I tell you? No.
I just love how you're like, so me and the right head. Totally normal in this business.
Yeah, I mean, but the talking about how are we going to motion or how are they going to create Ghidorah? How, you know, that was really interesting to have three of us. And when the first articles came out, they thought it was just our faces. We were doing all the growling and snarling and stuff. So they thought we were just the faces and that three other actors were just the body. Because motion capture is a form of Frankensteining. It's going to be my face, her body, your voice, you know, and then you doing the cinematics. So it's been really interesting to be able to say, no, we did the face and we did the body, you know.
Like actually all
of it together.
Once, yeah.
And it was a great process to finally be, you know. I look at motion capture as the same thing as doing stunts. We're the people behind the people behind the people. You know, voice actors get a lot of credit because, I mean, who doesn't want James Earl Jones to be your Darth Vader voice, you know? And I'm going to be the body. But voice actors get a lot of the credit for the work that we do, and a lot of people still don't understand the process of motion capture and performance capture, and it's fine. It pays my mortgage, you know, and keeps me busy, and I love what I do. I can't believe I get to play G.I. Joe one day, and Darth Vader the next day, and a zombie the next day. And then, you know, it's really incredible. It's an incredible career that has come out of the medical industry, because that's where motion capture started, was to measure people's walk and their gait and to help with, you know, arthritis and, you know, all these injuries and stuff. So it's really interesting that it came from a math point of view and science point of view, and entertainment has really taken over.
I'm wondering if we've talked about, you know, how much fun it is, how interesting it is. I'm wondering if we can do an exercise with everyone in the room. Is that all right? Would you guys be all right with that?
Yes!
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, one person.
So thank you. So this is the exercise. It was one of the things we did in Monsters, and it was the ogre exercise where you have the point of focus change how you are? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the big and the small?
Yes.
Okay.
So if everybody, just for the purpose of, I'm sorry, I'm totally throwing you guys this thing. But
no.
so the idea is everybody, please stand and be an ogre for a second, just starting cold. So what you're, and you can walk around the room, use the space. But what would you say, Richard?
How tall are ogres? How big are ogres?
Usually 6, 7, 8 feet tall.
8 to 10 to 15 feet, right? Huge. Ogres are huge characters. So we also have to figure out how much do they weigh? They weigh 300, 400, 500,
Exactly
600 pounds.
390.
Right.
So it's the weight that you have to create and the height that you have to create. That's the ogre dog.
I know.
Right. We can step down here if we want. You can see a little bit better. So be an ogre.
Right, be an ogre. World of Warcraft, right? What do ogres sound like? Right, let me hear you. How do ogres? We've just come from battle, right? How do we sound? Breathe. You have to go there. Your imagination has to be wide open. This is the stuff that we do. That you've always wanted to play an ogre, right? You've always wanted. You've wanted. We've just won the battle on the battlefield, right? Yeah. Let me hear you. That's what it's like being an ogre. Now, what happens if you become a Smurf? How big are Smurfs?
3 inches.
3 inches, right?
3 apples.
So 3 apples. 3 apples. A lot lighter, right? Everything up there at the ceiling, those are your ogres. Smurfs versus ogres.
Oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
I'm throwing this blueberry at that one. That's just slow. Oh, it didn't work.
What are the personalities of a Smurf? Happy, cute, fun, right? We're going to try to make friends with the ogres, right? Hi! Don't step on me! Our whole, this is all imagination. This is the stuff that we go through, that we create, that we get to play all the time. We will be on the same set. He will be the ogre. I will be the Smurf. I can't look at him in the eye. I have to act to the ceiling and he has to act to the floor. But we have to connect. We have to have this moment of acting together where I have to make sure, I've got this new blueberry. Would you like a bite? Yeah. I can't look at him. I can't.
That's the second blueberry. Just set it down. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. You're so far down there.
What? We have to be able to perform together. We have to act together. We have to connect together as actors. But we're working in a medium that lets us use our imagination, that lets us explore and create fantastical characters. And so this world is it's a dream world. As performers, as actors, when you get the call that you can be, today, guess what? We're doing World of Warcraft 5. You're playing ogres. That's having that imagination to jump in, because we don't know what we work on when we show up. We show up to a motion capture studio and they're like, guess what, Michelle? It's sword day today. And you're like, Thank God I have Michelle there, because she's amazing with weapons. But we get to create these incredible, fantastical creatures and characters for you, and you guys can see it. You guys can see it. Everybody
Great job, everybody.
Great job. I want to open it up to for Q&A during this. If anyone does anyone have any questions about any of the stuff that we've discussed up here, or yes. That's all right.
So you had mentioned the Frankenstein bits. You have voice and body and all the different pieces. On average, what would you say is done solely by one person, like the voice and movement, and compared to usually it's done this way? Is it usually done by somebody doing all the movement and then a voice actor comes in later?
Now with performance capture, we want the voice connected to the body.
Yeah.
So for the cinematics, they're gonna try to capture one actor, because we can record your voice, we can record the movement.
Yeah, and now they have the head
the
cams
cams, yeah.
where they wear a helmet and the camera is on a wire that's stuck in front of their face. It lights their face, and they can only act, like you can only act with another actor and be this close to them, but it captures their face in every single facial movement.
So the majority of it now is
That's actually, like he was saying, for cinematics, that's what we do most of the time, but the majority of animation work is done the Frankenstein way. Because most of the time, depending on the game, especially with a game like Call of Duty where you're in first person and the player can sort of look anywhere and do anything, we have to populate that world with thousands of animations, and then we also have to bring in a voice actor to basically tell you what to do, tell you like what's going on, who am I, and this kind of stuff. So those two things, for the most part, we're kind of just going full speed on both of them. As much voice as we can get, as much animation as we can get. And then when someone's playing, the designer decides when to use it. They might say, okay, I'm going to come in this room, and then, okay, so I know I need these animations to all be here so I can see my allies going up against the wall. And then I know, okay, I want to use the commander's voice. What lines do I have from the commander? I'm going to take these 3 lines. So for a game like ours, the vast majority is the Frankenstein way. Like, there'll be some animation, it'll be some voice. But then if you're doing any cutscenes, even in a game like ours, it will be all performance capture. One actor doing the face, the voice, the body all together, shot like a film, where we just like select, okay, this is a great take, 3, 4 people acting together, even better, awesome take. It all goes straight in the game exactly the way they performed it.
That Frankenstein method, is it taking the voice first and then having the
It usually
to the voice?
is all done kind of, it's usually created kind of all at once. So sometimes we'll have the voice before we shoot it on stage, and then sometimes it'll be a voice actor shooting to what we've done on stage already.
I mean, when I did
Like ADR.
Yeah, when I did BioShock Infinite, they had already done all the motion capture. The animation was done. They had made a change of the voice during process. So when I came in, the one piece I had to really ADR was Comstock's death, and everything else was, but it was match the timing and match the movement of the animation.
I was curious how I've done the voice prior to the actual.
Yeah, we a lot of times we'll do it both ways. It kind of just depends on the nature of the work and which part of the process we're able to get first. If we can get actors acting together and create that in the performance setting with the facial cameras and everything like a film, that's ideal. But then the other 2 ways, either getting people acting on stage without audio and then ADRing to it, that can often be the best way of doing it because voice actors are so adept at ADRing that if you show them a video and it's like these 2 people are, those 2 people are arguing about a dog, and then you say, oh, now these 2 people love each other, they can easily look at it and be like, oh, okay, all right, I'll match the timing, I'll do the thing, So that's usually a good way of Frankensteining it.
In Uncharted, there's a sequence towards the end of Uncharted where the main character opens the sarcophagus and he gets the plague and he turns into the creature, turns into one of the infected people. And the actor who was doing the voice of the main character, he was amazing, but when it came time to open the sarcophagus and turn into a monster, he wasn't so good. So they literally, I was on set as guard number 3, and I had done a lot of the in-game stuff for that game. So they were like, Richard, monster time. So we just switched places, and he was like, thank you for being able to contort and change. So it was one moment where, I'm watching this incredible actor and this incredible voice, and he's doing the scene, and then it came to monster time, and he was like, it's not my thing. I don't know how to do that. So please be my monster. And that happened on set right away. I did the transformation for him, and then I got shot in the head and had to go flying. And there was no way he was going to do it. I believe he was like 65, and he was, he wasn't a stunt guy, so he was like, yes, be my monster and let me shoot you. So it was awesome. So that was like on-set Frankensteining happening right in front of me.
So a question here, and then I'll come to you right after this. Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, for someone that does like acting and stuff, how is the transition, or how do you recommend to go towards voice acting and motion capturing? Like, is it the same audition? Because I had one voiceover audition like the last year, so it's like, is there different places or different websites you guys go for specifically for those things, or how do you guys recommend to like take that route to change to that?
Well, he could probably tell you more about the voice.
I mean, with
With either like voice or
They're separate.
yeah, they're separate paths. I mean, I'm represented with a voiceover
we have a
agent,
casting
and
director.
they submit me on
Yeah,
auditions, and that's how I get that work.
And 2 other casting directors.
And then you guys have external casting
Yeah,
directors?
so basically we just have used a handful of casting directors over the years. I would say, do you have an agent?
I have management.
Okay.
Okay.
So the management that sent you for the voiceover audition, try to find out what casting director that was and ask him to send you on more things, because it's usually the same casting directors that do all of everything. So there'll be one casting director that does the voiceover casting for 100 video games, or it'll be the same casting director that brings in people to do motion capture for video games or Avatar or things like that. So I would say whoever you went to whoever was the casting director for that voiceover audition, tell your management that you want to see them more.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
LA Casting is here in town. This is where all the actors are registered at LA Casting. You can submit publicly, and your agents and managers submit through LA Casting. So you have to get on there. If you're not on there, then you're not going to see all the breakdowns that come out and things like that.
And actors access too,
Actors
right?
access too.
I actually just did a casting for a video game trailer, and we needed 3 people, and I got over 700 submissions for 3 roles.
Wow.
So we had to break. So that's your competition, on something that's serious. You're 300 people for 1 role, 200 for one, 200 for one, and then we cut it down to 70, and then the director cut it down to 35. So that's the process. But if you don't know, if you're not on LA Casting, you wouldn't know that my casting went out there.
Right.
That's part of the process. Actors access, things like that. That's your acting homework. That's I tell all my students, you have a lot of homework to do, and you have to be your own marketing person, and you're your own brand. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Your agents don't do it for you. Your managers don't do it for you. You have to do it for yourself and put yourself out there.
There's additional resources to find out who casting directors are. Like Casting About is a database that's available through Actors Access that tells you, I know for film and television anyway, all the casting directors, all their offices, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. You have to do a mailing. And at the end of the day, it's just hustling and poring over IMDb and finding out who cast this game, and finding out if your team can get you access, and if they can't, how can I get access to them? And then what media, what do you send? Like Michelle, for example, you've got a movement reel, right? Or a stunt reel.
Yeah.
What was the process of making that, and is that something that you use as a headshot or
demo reel type of a thing?
Yeah, it's like a demo reel showcasing your, your special skills and stuff. It's like an acting reel where you're like, oh, look, I was in this TV show and I cried, and look at what a great actress I am. A motion reel can be like that if you have any special skill sets like gymnastics or martial arts or whatever. And then also that kind of showcases what things you've worked on in the past, and that's kind of like a good calling card to mail out with your headshot and your sizes and stuff.
Yeah.
For us also, there's places that specialize. E3 that happens here at the convention center, the gaming convention. There's GDC, the Game Developers Conference that happens in San Francisco. I tell my students, if you want to get into, those are the people you meet, the gamers, the developers of those. That's your target audience, because meeting an animator is amazing because they just want to create movements, and then they're like, oh wow, you're willing to mocap for me? You're making a special relationship with somebody who's actually doing the technical side of it, and they're looking to test stuff and try their things. I just worked with an animator who is creating his own project. He's at Naughty Dog. He's working on The Last of Us 2, but he has his own little side project that he took his little savings, and he's like, I have to motion capture this for myself. And
That's cool.
finding those
That is
people
cool.
are the ones, Kickstarter. It's all part of your homework of trying to find out where these things are being made and who makes them, and one little nugget could turn into something massive.
And it's definitely something to keep in mind. As with all acting, it's really in the timing. Like you could find this casting director and then, see that they're the person who's been doing all this stuff, and this happens that day that you contact them, they're sending out, oh, actually I need mocap actors for this thing today. And it's just, that's why you just have to keep at it. I know it can be very hard, but you just have to keep at it because it does happen.
I mean, it was the thing you guys said at the very beginning. It was I was at the right place at the right
Right.
time. Everybody
Exactly.
echoed
Yeah.
that sort of that sentiment, and it's
Could have been anybody.
yeah. But it's true. The more you pursue it, the more times you create that opportunity for yourself to be in the right place at a given time, and that given time might be the time where you are most ready, or maybe if there was one thing I wish that I hadn't done when I first got to Los Angeles, was I was so hungry to get in front of every casting director, but I wasn't ready. But I put myself there, and like some of these different
Right.
workshops and
Same.
stuff, and it was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to go meet so-and-so, I'm going to go meet so-and-so. And I got in the booth, and they're like, oh, calm down, slow down, do this and this. And I was like, oh man, I really wish I'd spent a little bit more time studying before I put myself up on this, in this space.
Right.
Like when I started teaching voiceover at Second City, like one of the guys, one of our agent assistants at our talent agency was like, dude, you just tell those kids, go get good, we'll be here when they're ready. and it was this hilarious sort of like, George just said
simple.
it so like, yeah.
So get good.
But it was so true. And it was like, you cannot take back a bad experience listening to a reel. You know what I mean? So like, work on your craft. Work on your craft. Get good, and the opportunities will be there when they're ready,
Right.
or when you're ready. As much as I beat myself up for coming out to LA when I was 41, I should have come when I was 21. Nah, I needed to knock around the Midwest for a while. I needed to make some mistakes. I need to get good.
Did you guys see him on The Rookie the other night?
Nathan Fillion beat me
Oh, he
up.
was so
It was
awesome.
Awesome.
That was great.
Oh my
saw it.
God.
Yes, right here.
Hi, I'm sorry, you mentioned you mentioned Lord of the Rings, and they use Massive as one of their programs, and a lot of these programs are available, but there's no real database for 3D motion capture. Is there anything that the studios have privately, or is there like a version of Getty Images that you guys would work with as actors where there's a large stored set of motions, even for polygon or wire, Fleischer graphics? Sorry, that's a little technical.
No, it's a good question.
Every
Good
game that I've
question.
worked on, we have, even though I may have done the same move and the same thing, every game company wants their own version of that move. They want their own run cycle, their own punch cycle. People have created libraries where you can drop in libraries of animation into, but why would I want to use somebody else's move if I'm creating something else? If it's my game, I want to be in charge of what my game looks like and feels like. And I did 2 games back to back, one for Sony and one for Microsoft, and they basically were the exact same game. But for each one, I changed the way I moved. Like in one game, I would go to cut their head off, and the other game, I would go, because I didn't want them to look the same. But there are libraries of moves out there, but when you're with a game company, they want to say, no, we captured all of this. So they'll do it. I've done so many run cycles and crouch cycles, I would think, just take my Born Conspiracy crouch cycle.
gotta
Those
be
are
out
really
That was
good.
a good cycle.
That was a good
That was a good
cycle.
cycle of
But
movement.
they all want to create their own. You want to own your own content.
Yeah.
So libraries for motion capture right now they're not a big thing.
And I can tell you, like, I'm on the motion capture, the performance capture committee for the Screen Actors Guild, and like, I think it's a concern of ownership, of movement, who owns what, and likeness and all those other kind of things. So I think whether there's a database of moves that is like either public domain or like Shutterfly, or that might be wrong, but like Getty Images, like you're saying, of like something where I can pay X amount, like a flame effect for After Effects, or filters, that kind of stuff, right? Like, or
I think there are animation libraries of that,
Yeah.
but not a motion capture.
No big motion. Well, so at least, sorry.
that's all right, please.
Research that we've done for voice and many other ones, a mimic for like Barack Obama or for other ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen the Adobe audio
Yeah.
automation tool. They use a mimic, and that gives you a performance like 20 or 30 times better than you can get in even a normal person mimicking. So an actor doing mimics in motion, or I guess you studied chimp motion, maybe, I don't know, when you were doing the ogre, you get much better performance. I don't think you guys are going out of business anytime.
That's good to hear.
No, because
Yeah.
it's
And it's authentic, and it's
I'm
direct.
I'm going to answer this real quick.
Please.
Also, like, I think just to go along with what they were saying, usually people do want to create their own things for all video games. The only thing that I've heard about in terms of like, and also what you're getting out of any sort of library, you would be paying for, and it doesn't really look like what you would want. You want to create it yourself. I do think what they are trying to do for, I believe it's Facebook is now starting to do like a very large VR project. So apparently they are going to be doing a massive amount of motion capture and creating a library for that.
Oh, man.
So that in order to
Stock.
make all of their VR products have this huge library to draw from. But that's the only, like, sort of, I would say, legitimate library project that I've heard about.
I'll go here, and then I'll come over here. Yes, right here.
Another technical question. So when I was doing animation back in college, we did a lot of mocap. Like it was the cleanup part, So we have the people acting out and everything, and then they give it to the animators, and then we'd have to do the hand articulation. Has that gotten any easier?
So-
Especially on the animation end.
There are a few different schools of thought for like cleaning up hand data. There are definitely a lot of technical things that we've sort of experimented with. We have found up to this point there are ways to capture the fingers with like what we have is we have an OptiTrack system, so it's a visual system. It's just like Vicon or a motion analysis system. And depending on how you have it set up, you can get pretty good finger data captured. Cleaning up that finger data is to get good marker data, very easy. Then actually putting that onto the rig of the hands is the complicated part, because it's basically like, it's the same reason why when you look at a face that's been motion captured, it doesn't always look good, because the face is so complicated, and the hand is just as complicated as the face. And basically the hand is like a face, and then the fingers are like a face, because there's just so much movement that goes into it. So what we have found up to this point is you can capture some more detailed hand and finger stuff for reference, but having a good animator that knows exactly what they want to do with the hand and having good controls on the hand is really the key. And also making sure that all of the motion capture is delivered in such a high quality way that the only thing they have to touch is how do I want to change the poses on the hand. That really helps. So if you're not spending all your time cleaning up other weird anomalies in the motion capture and just focusing on now I want to add some stuff to the hands and now I want to maybe add some stuff to the face, that's kind of the point that we're at right now.
Okay, that's
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, they would just animate and everything, and then it's like, I'm sorry, they would do the mocap. And then it's like, okay, guys, hands are yours. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yes, right here.
No problem.
So I had never heard of this before, so this is a little new to me about the databases of moves. Can you copyright or trademark move? Because I was just reading it yesterday, and it's probably an old article that Jet Li turned down The
Yeah.
Matrix because
Right.
they wanted him to show up, I think, 4 months before the actors and just record him doing moves all day long. And then they wanted to lock in the rights to these moves. And Jet Li turned it down. These are my moves, he said. You're not going to
Yeah.
put them in a vault and use them for all the next movies. So
I think that's an interesting question because back then, I mean, now, which I think is a good thing, the acting union is much more involved in motion capture and performance capture. Back then, it was way harder, I think, to understand what the technology was, and it was easier for actors to be taken advantage of. So that could have been something that was on the table. And he was smart enough to say, absolutely not. You don't have a right to record me and use my stuff forever. It definitely is something now that as actors and as the people that make the video games, we work on contract by contract basis of we're agreeing, we're going to pay you to do these actions, we're going to use them in exactly this way, and this is all in your contract, and we're not allowed to violate that. We're not allowed to take them and use them for something else or sell them to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, as if we have the right, as if we have, completely all the legal rights to them. That's not the way it works. It's it's an agreement. They are coming to do work for us. They can be used in exactly this way, and nothing beyond that. But that's definitely more of a thing that's come about over probably the last 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
It's really started to get dialed in.
Yeah.
I think Viggo Mortensen for Lord of the Rings, he made a deal that they would use his digital, when they needed to make a digital version of him for fighting or for crowd scenes or whatever, that when the movie was done, they destroyed all the digital files of him. Because he said, I do not want a digital me out there to be used anywhere else. And that was part of his contract that he had
and that's
the insight
absolutely a
ahead
good way of
time to
doing it.
say,
Everybody
use it
doing
for
the
movie
contract for
and
what
then
they
delete
all
all
want.
my files.
Yeah.
Well, video games are 2 years in the making, if not
2,
longer.
3 years. We're on a 3-year cycle right now.
Wow.
So it takes 3 years, and it costs a lot more money than
Hundreds of
any
millions.
movie
Yeah.
ever. It's crazy, but I couldn't even tell you because I mean there also in the world of video games, there are so many, there's little independent video games that will do things, sometimes even pretty grand things on a very small, tiny budget with 5 people. And then there's Call of Duty with hundreds and hundreds of people work on different studios. It's definitely above my understanding of how much money it is, but it's way, I would say it's probably the amount of money you'd spend on 5 or 6 movies.
Jeez.
Blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
That would be my estimate. Yeah. It's a lot.
Well, what? Grand Theft Auto just hit the $6 billion.
Yeah.
For sales.
For sales.
Yeah.
You know,
That's,
so it's
something.
Yes.
not slowing down.
Unions, or is that in the realm of SAG-AFTRA for mocap performers as well? How does it? And
Yeah.
Would you say that? Because I know for voice, but for the average big game, the PS4s, those ones. Would you say that the majority of them are all union, or are we seeing a trend towards non-union, or?
It's all over the place.
It is all over the place. Some of the work is union work. Any voice work is union work. Therefore, any performance capture is union work. So if you're doing voice and face and body together, that's all SAG-AFTRA.
Right.
That's all SAG-AFTRA work.
I know that our time is running up. I want to. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to grab us in the hallway. But
Yes,
I wanted to
We'll be available.
just quickly. What advice do you guys have for people getting started in this work who are interested, and where would you send them?
The Mocap Vaults.
Yeah.
That's my company, the Mocap Vaults. Go mocap.com. That's where we set up our classes, and you know, that's one place to start, because nobody was teaching motion capture here, and that for me it's been a, I love teaching. I felt it was my time to give back, and that's kind of why I'm doing it now. I've had a great career. I've played incredible characters, and I love teaching. And right now, this is my way of giving back to the community that supported me and that has given me a career. You can find, you have to do your homework. I tell people to study the trailers and study the cinematics on YouTube, because somebody will beat the game the 24 hours after it's been released, and somebody will post it on YouTube. And you can watch a whole cinematic and see a whole incredible movie. Those are the things you have to study. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff now with movies that show performance capture. That's the homework. That's where you're going to start to make connections. And you find out, because now they're interviewing the casting directors. They're interviewing the developers and the designers. Those are the names that you have to find and reach out to. So
Awesome.
for me.
Awesome. Kristina, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I definitely think like most of the things we've been talking about is just, you know, as an actor getting on all those casting boards, looking at casting directors that have been doing video games, that have been doing voiceover stuff, and those other actor connection websites that you guys mentioned, to just, you know, make sure that if there's anybody out there that you can say, I'm an actor, this is my reel, I'm interested in doing video games, because sometimes there might be a case when there aren't that many people interested in doing video games. Sometimes people are just like, they don't want to.
Yeah.
And so if a casting director knows that you're interested, that can be a good thing.
Awesome. And on the technical side, if someone was interested in pursuing your trajectory, what would you recommend, or what direction would you point them?
Most of the people coming into motion capture now, you can major in video game development and animation. There are schools that have there are a lot of schools that have their own motion capture systems, and they actually teach motion capture.
Awesome.
USC, Noman, all these great little.
Most of the big animation and video game schools
Awesome.
have some motion capture.
Michelle, any advice for people who are interested in getting into this work?
I don't know if you guys probably have touched on it, but actually have something to show off. Have something, have a skill set, whatever it is. If you're the best, I don't know, violin player, or the best pencil twirler, or whatever, show something off. Be useful, and be original, and be truthful, and that'll get you work. That'll get you working.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, thank you so much for being here for this panel, and thank you to all of our panelists, and have a wonderful con for the rest of your time. Take care. Yeah. So that was our conversation, and I learned a ton, and we had a blast going out in the house and doing stuff with them. Anyway, I hope that you come and join us next year at another live event, and more episodes coming soon. Thanks a bunch. Talk to you soon. Peace. This has been All Over Voiceover with KIF VH. For questions to be either answered on Twitter or on an upcoming cast, tweet to the show at AllOverVOKIF. Till next week, you get what you get and don't get upset. Claim victory and depart the field.